Okay, right, back here we are. So let's continue. So according to scientists and social scientists all over the world, they say life is about relationships. Well, from a devotee perspective, actually, we also agree with them. It is about relationships. Because ultimately, when we have power, fame, beauty, and all that, do you really imagine enjoying all this on your own? Usually, people want to show off to someone, isn't it? If they have something, if let's say someone gives you a new thing, you would want to show off, right? You would want to tell a friend, you would like to tell this person or tell whoever it is, hey, I have this, it's so cool, So you want to say it. But if there's nobody, if you are the only person in the world, it doesn't really feel the same way, isn't it? The happiness that you would want to get would not come. So the idea is you want to share things. If you have something, you would like to share with other people. So that's why you want relationships. So either you want to have a friend or, the parents, because they are, let's say parents, the father and the mother, they get married together, they start a family, and then they are so in love with each other or whatever. And then they think that, oh, it's so beautiful. Let's have children together. And then they have child. Why? Because they want to extend that happiness with the happiness that they have or whatever they may have, they want to share it with their child. So same thing goes, if you have anything new, you would want to share it with your close and dear friends, isn't it? So that is relationship. So the more beautiful the relationship is, the happier the person is. This is scientific fact. It's been shown. Okay. So people have come up with lots and lots of books, different things. The Quality of Your Life is the Quality of Your Relationships by Anthony Robbins. Now, this Anthony Robbins is a very famous social guru, right? He likes to write many books. He gives lots of courses and seminars. So he is also saying the same thing. And then this is another person, Simran Jain. Time is the currency of relationships. If you want to invest in your relationships, start by investing your time. So sometimes people feel I'm not having a good relationship. Why? Because of various reasons. One of the reasons is time. We don't invest enough of it. Or sometimes we have our preconceived notions. We have our, we have our very heavy opinions. So these things sometimes come in the way of having a good relationship. A lot of give and take is also necessary. So, but still there is suffering. So, even people who have good relationships, even people who have a lot of wonderful relationships, even they suffer. They cannot say that I have gone through life without suffering. And sometimes, in fact, many times, the people with good relationships only, they suffer even more sometimes. Right? So this is very interesting. Both unique and common. Anyone can tell me why people with good relationships suffer sometimes?
Because of the love they give to the families.
Okay, so because of the love, they suffer. How? Anybody? Why do people in relationships suffer? Can someone tell me? Good relationships. Why do people with good relationships suffer?
Prabhu, maybe because they want to try their level best to keep their happiness, to remain that happiness in their relationship. That's why they have to suffer to remain that happiness forever lah.
Good point also. Mataji, you're saying that people have to sacrifice in order to maintain a good relationship, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. So some amount of sacrifice is necessary to maintain a good relationship. That's a good point. So the sacrifice is not something sometimes people like to do. So it's a bit of a trouble, yes. But sacrifice sometimes depends on what level you're sacrificing. So usually this, okay, yeah, people, yeah, I can understand suffering is there. Any other points? Why people in good relationships suffer?
Because they need to suffer the previous karma.
Okay, so you're saying that the previous karma has given a relationship which is not very good, so therefore you suffer. Okay, but I want to know, my question here is, okay, let's assume you have a good relationship, lah, as good as you could. You know, imagine the best relationship you have with whoever that you know, right? And then still, is there potential suffering? Have you gone through any suffering, or is there any potential suffering going to come to you in the future due to that relationship? Okay, I give you an example. Let's say you love your mother or you love your father very much, right? So, all right, because of some sacrifice, okay, that's there, okay? But sometimes you get some disappointment, isn't it? Anyone has gone through a relationship without any disappointment? Like you have someone wanted to say something just now. Oh, somebody, okay, I'm looking at the chat. Okay. Maybe misunderstanding, yes. They tend to compromise a lot, even their happiness. Okay, that was mentioned. Okay. So people have gone through disappointments in relationship. Do you all agree? Not every time the relationship is perfect. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Even with your best friend, sometimes there'll be some problem, right? Somewhere, right? So it's not perfect. So therefore you will have ups and downs, like how Aditya says, yes. And you have disappointments. One more important point, I want to get it out from you. What do you think will happen in the future? Let's say your mother, let's say our parents, or I'll give you a hint, our grandparents. Anybody loves their grandparents?
Yes, I love my grandparents very much.
Okay. So what do you think, what kind of potential pain is awaiting you in that relationship, if I may ask?
They might pass away, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you very much.
The moment that they leave us.
Yes. So that's the problem with this relationship in this material world. Our relationships don't last forever. Yes. So we take the trouble, you see, we sacrifice so much to have a relationship, and then we have a relationship. And when we have the relationship, we feel very happy. Yeah, there are disappointments, ups and downs, not perfect, but majority of the wise, if we have good sacrifice, we will have good relationship. But it will all come to an end one day when they all, either one of us pass away, then it will end. And what happens at that time? Have you ever seen a happy funeral? I'm sure you've seen funerals, but happy funeral, we have seen sober funeral, yes. Quiet funerals, yes. But you would not be finding a funeral where people will be, dancing up and down. Yes, he's gone. Thank God, now everybody can be happy. They may think like that in their deepest hearts, and then they may put a big drama outside, but then, actually that you never see that. So it's painful. Even when I tell you, my auntie, my cousin and my auntie, they had a dog. And then they call their dog, the mother, my auntie will call their dog her son. And then it became part of the family. So, she'll address herself, where's mommy? Mommy is here. Oh, doggy, dog, come to mommy. Like that. And then finally, when the dog died, oh, they actually had a funeral. They had a funeral ceremony, and then they spoke some Tirukural and things like that. And they prayed for the soul. She became very sad. because people cry. Yeah, I also, when I was young, I used to have a dog. And then when my dog was taken away from me, I cried and cried and cried for 3 days. And then I used to be angry with my family because they thought that I shouldn't have the dog, whatever. So yes, these are all the problems with suffering. So the scientists say the best happiness we can ever have in this life is through relationships, right? Because everything we have, we want to share in that relationship. But that relationship has suffering still. Because who has not faced disappointments in relationships? Who has enduring health? Who lives forever, right? Mentally or physically, to maintain the sacrifice needed for the relationship. Therefore, we have ups and downs, right? And it doesn't last. And at the same time, there are some people who may have worthy goals. You know, there are some people who like spend their entire life, let's say, in doing charity. Okay, so there are also ups and downs in that. So still they're suffering. So therefore, despite all this, we may find happiness. In Sanskrit, this happiness is called sukha. You know, from Tamil, sugam. The actual root word is sukha from Sanskrit. So this is material happiness. But what is the definition of happiness? The definition of happiness is, in this material world, it is always temporary. It's for a while happy, for a while not happy. Now I'm asking you a question. Huh? We all look for happiness. Everybody agree?
Yes, Prabhu.
Do
Yes,
we get,
Prabhu.
and sometimes we get the happiness? Do we agree?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes. Now I'm asking you, do we all look for misery? Obviously we don't, right? But do we get misery enough without us looking for it? Do we get it?
Yes, we do sometimes.
Yes. So that's a very interesting point, isn't it? We don't search for happiness, right? Sorry, we search for happiness and we get it, but we don't search for misery, but we also get it. So why? So that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, happiness and distress will come and go even without you looking for it. So just like how we don't look for misery and we still get it, so in the same way, even happiness, we don't really have to look for it in this world. We will get it because it's according to our karma. Actually, it said that at the time of our conception, not birth, not at the time of birth even, at the time that the sperm and the ovum has joined, and then the zygote, you know, the small zygote has formed. From that time, you know, in science we say insemination or process persanyavaan, fertilization. From that moment onwards, the karma of the living entity is already decided. What is decided? Not that it's decided that he'll be an accountant or he'll be a great singer or he'll be a musician. No, that is not decided. That one is indication, yes. There are indications, but it's not 100%. But what is 100% decided is the amount of happiness and the amount of distress that we can have in this life. That is decided. No matter what you do, no matter what activity we do, the amount of happiness that is given to us in this life and the amount of distress that is going to come to us in this life is already fixed. Okay, so that is what the scriptures inform us. That means we can be born rich, we can have material facilities, right? All this power, wealth, and everything are just facilities. We can have many facilities, but we can be extremely unhappy in those facilities, right? Because we all have our own minds. We may have different situations in our life. That explains why people with these facilities kill themselves. So it is already set. So it's like this, you know. So the happiness is temporary. It is, let's see what's in the chat. Okay, nothing so far. It is flickering, very short happiness. You know, for example, sexual pleasure, right? People go to so much trouble to go and get themselves a girlfriend or to go and get themselves a boyfriend, and then eventually to have a relationship, and eventually to, you know, they want to have sexual relationship or whatever. But that sexual relationship is flickering. It's very flickering. It's very short term, right? So in fact, more so that people in this world, they are looking for medicines, you know, Viagra and all that, to ensure that they can pathetically extend their enjoyment a few minutes more. So that is really pathetic. So it's very flickering. But yet people become completely trapped by that illusion. And it's very relatively overrated. It's very much overrated. It's nothing as great as it's made to sound, right? This is the nature of material happiness. Chief of this material happiness is sexual relationships. This is what is actually making the whole world turn in terms of material desire. This is what the scriptures say. So too often we are instead left feeling what happened when we try to search for happiness, because we don't have to search for it, it's already there. So frustrated, we try our best to get a ticket, and then we get trapped in a traffic jam, and because of that we miss the either movie or flight or whatever. Tickets sold out, right? Have you had that situation before? You wait in the queue for hours, and then in the end, you either the tickets are sold out or you get a horrible seat with someone kicking you at the back, right? Then people spend for big weddings. You know, actually someone was quite free that they actually did a study. They studied the amount of, they wanted to know, is there a relationship between the amount of money you spend on weddings and the amount of divorce which is coming. So this is done in US, I think, right? So actually they found there is a relationship. In fact, they say the more money you spend, the more likely you are to divorce. You can see this graph here. Those people who spend 20,000 US dollars and more, they are likely to divorce 46% more likely. Those who spend less, the divorce rate is lower and lower. It's interesting, isn't it? Actually, there is an explanation for this in the scriptures. You know, that's why the scriptures say there are three modes: mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. When you do something in the mode of passion, we end up with misery. That's what the Bhagavad Gita says, right? So if we want to have a grand thing, you know, spend thousands and millions, so we are doing things in the mode of passion. So what would be the result in the end? It may not lead in divorce, not necessarily, but in the end, you know, karma is very intelligent. It will find 1,001 ways to bring about misery, right? Not necessarily it has to be divorce. So it's important to remain in the mode of goodness. So we'll talk about that later. So in the end, people are eventually disappointed with life, right? So now the question is, what, Prabhu, are you saying that there is no real happiness in this world, that we are all doomed? Should we all be miserable? Is that the real thing what you're trying to say? Actually, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that there is happiness and then there is also happiness, right? So, or are we simply looking for happiness in the wrong place? Just like the fish. Now, if a fish is living in water, happily swimming away, and then we find the fish swimming in the water, and some person says, "Ayo, poor fish, let me save the fish and put it in a nice, fat, nice, beautiful aquarium," right? I'm trying to save this fish from its, you know, cruel habitat, and I'll put it in my nice aquarium, and I'll give this fish beautiful lighting. I'll give it all kinds of interesting toys for the fish to play with, right? I'll give it air conditioning. So, you know, like that, what the fish really wants is its natural habitat. It wants the freedom to move about. So similarly, a fish out of water, if you give the fish food, if you give the fish air conditioning, if you give the fish ice cubes, it's not going to be really happy, isn't it? It just wants water. So similarly, we are all looking for happiness in the wrong place, in the wrong way. That's why whatever happiness we are getting, including relationships, they are all somewhat creating some kind of misery in the end. So here's a short story to illustrate this fact. So once there was a king, and the king had a very, very expensive diamond necklace, right? So, and he had a daughter, and he loved the daughter very much. And so he gave this necklace to their daughter for her birthday. So this is the daughter. So the daughter had this necklace and she'll wear it with her all the time. So one day she went to bathe in the river together with all her friends and everybody. So, so when you bathe in the river, they take off all their things and then they hang it in the branches. So what happened? Suddenly, after finish bathing, the princess got up and she dressed back, but she found that the necklace which she hung on a branch together with her clothes, suddenly the necklace disappeared. It's no longer there. So they searched everywhere, but they couldn't find it. So actually what happened, there is this magpie, magpie, it's a type of bird. It likes to steal shiny things. So this bird happened to be there and he saw this shining necklace outside, and then it came and took it and flew away. And imagine that happens to you. So then the king had a great he gave an announcement: whoever can find this necklace for me, I will give him all kinds of wealth, so all kinds of things that he wants. So all over the kingdom, people were searching and searching and searching. So this one man, this farmer, he happened to walk about. He also knew about this necklace and he was thinking, if only I had this necklace. So nice. Then he was walking along this lake by the river, by the lake water. And then he just happened to, play about. And then he happened to see suddenly in the water, shimmering in the water, a necklace. And then, wow, this necklace looks like the necklace which the princess lost. I found it. So then he just jumped inside the water, splash, and then the whole water became muddy. And then he was groping about, but then finally he couldn't find it. And when the water finally settled also, he suddenly, he was still walking about in the water. But then he couldn't find, then he got up. And then eventually when the water settled, he saw the necklace again shimmering over there in the same place. Then he was perplexed. Hey, I went in. So then he jumped again. And then again, the same thing happened. He tried this a few times. Then there happened to be a sage sitting nearby a tree. And he was a bit disturbed by this splashing about and everything. So he opened his eyes and he saw this man looking in. Then he asked, what do you want? Okay, we have a question. Okay, I'll talk about this question in a while. Okay, so the sage asked, what do you want, man? And then this man said, oh, I found this necklace in the water, but each time I go in the water, the necklace disappears. Then the sage, he looked up, he looked down, he looked at him, and then he told him, hey, if I tell you if I give you my advice, will you leave me to meditate in peace? Then the man said, yeah, sure, please tell me. And then the sage said, look up. And then the man said, up? What do you mean up? They said, look up. Then the man said, up? Yeah, up. Turn your head up and look up. Said, I don't want to look up. The necklace is down. What if when I look up, the fish comes and takes the necklace away? Then the sage rolled his eyes. And then he said, look up. And then the man finally looked up. And then he saw the necklace hanging on the branch of a tree. So what he saw in the water was, yes, you guessed it, it's the reflection of the necklace. So this is what we are doing in this world. We know there is happiness, but we are looking for it in the wrong place. So illusion. Okay, let's see this question. Which is why the rich who live a luxurious life always have happy problems. Not really happy problems. Happy problems means you have a lot of money, but you don't know which bank to put in. That is a happy problem. It's not the same as the normal problem. Normal problem is I got a lot of money, but then my uncle is plotting to kill me. My auntie is plotting to steal as much as she can. My cousin is hoping that I'll fall in love with her and marry her, and she will take the money away from me. Now those are real problems because you can die. Okay, right. So now the question begs: is it even possible to have permanent solutions to our problems? Right? Can we ever have lasting happiness? Now, the scientists who came and told us that happiness is in relationships, yes, but they also agree, yes, we cannot have lasting happiness. So the great graduates and all, they don't know. The PhDs don't know. The doctors, they don't know also. The scientists, in all their chemicals mixing about, they say that 4 chemicals make one happy. Now, dopamine. Dopamine is the chemical which, when you buy something, it makes you happy for a while. But after that, the new thing which you have is just another thing. It's short lasting. Then they say there's another chemical which makes you happy. That is endorphin. That one, when you do exercise, it doesn't really make you happy, but it stops you from having depression. So then there's a third chemical which helps in happiness, and this is oxytocin. Now, this one is more important. Oxytocin is when you get social relationship. This is called the relationship hormone. When you have relationships, when you have loving relationships, when you have hugs, touch of people, the baby who's massaged, it grows faster compared to the baby which is not. So that is due to oxytocin. And then the fourth chemical they say is serotonin. Serotonin is the chemical, that one is a mystery chemical. They still don't know. They say people get serotonin when they have a worthy goal in life, when they have found a good goal, when they have dedicated their life in doing something very important, then you find some amount of serotonin, but not so much though. So that's the mystery. So they don't know yet. So the great scientists don't know. Well, Trump certainly doesn't know because that's why he lost his position. And oops, no, they don't know. But many of the greatest scientists in the world from the past, they all believe that actually, I think that is a solution. Yes, such happiness does exist in this world, right? The real happiness, it's possible to experience it. Lasting, everlasting happiness. They think so. And they all think that it is with God. Why do they say that? They say that if it's true that relationships make us happy, and if it's true that material relationships are full of disappointments, sacrifices, and it doesn't last, and when it's ended, it causes so much of pain, then they say, why not have a relationship with God? He is perfect. You don't have to sacrifice that much, right? He is perfect. He has everything. He's superb. He's supreme. He's a supreme person, right? And he's eternal. That's the best part. It lasts forever. So that's what Albert Einstein says. That's what Isaac Newton says. That's what Galileo Galilei says. That's what Max Planck says. That's what Michael Faraday, Thomas Kelvin, Nicholas Copernicus, Louis Pasteur, Johann Kepler, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Aquinas, Descartes, Immanuel Kant, all of them say that spirituality is the answer. They think so. But Prabhupada can tell you, I know so. I know so. Because though they have think so, I know so because I've gone through it. So this is what our acharyas say. Yes, this world is not fit for a gentleman, right? But you can go back home, back to Godhead, attain an eternal body, blissful life, with beautiful relationship, never ending, never disappointing, ever increasing, blissful relationship with God. So it is true, we also agree, it is relationships that make you happy, but who you have that relationship is what matters, right? So it's not only he saying it, all the acharyas from our line, Shankaracharya, Madhavacharya, Ramanujacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, and all the Sat Goswamis and our parampara, they all say this. Yes, so the conclusion is there is happiness. You just don't know where to look for it. And this happiness is eternal, everlasting, and perfect. We are trying to give people that happiness, which will never be exhausted. That is our objective of happiness, Prabhupada says. So that's what ISKCON is trying to tell everybody. By following this bhakti process, what is the bhakti process all about? It's all about building a beautiful relationship with God, isn't it? That is what it is all about. Everyone is hankering for happiness because by nature, we are happy. And this is true because we are souls. We are not the body. And do you know what's the nature of the soul? The nature of the soul is described by Vedanta Sutra as Anandamayo Vyasat. Anandamayo Vyasat means our nature is to be happy. We are always happy. Why we are looking for happiness all over this world? It's because we are the soul, and the soul's nature is to be happy. That's why it's looking for that happiness all the time. And do you know what's the actual nature of the soul? It is Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. It finds that happiness by being an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. Now, as soon as I mention the word servant, many of us may think, I don't want to be a servant. Why? Because in our opinion, being a servant means it's not very good. Oh, you won't get the best food. You will probably have to stay in one small room, and you have to do a lot of work, because that's our material conception of servant. But you know, the mother is the servant of the child when the child is born, right? But who is happier, the mother or the child? When the child is born, who is happier, the mother or the child? The child is not happy. Have you seen a happy baby? I have not seen many happy babies. They are cranky, they cry, but the mother is so happy, and the mother serves the baby, right? She's always serving. She doesn't even sleep sometimes. She sacrifices. She goes through pain, but she's so happy. So in the same way, we can begin to understand that beautiful relationship of master and servant is not what we think in this material world. It's actually very beautiful. Just like Krishna, he's the master, but when you see Bhagavad Gita, you see Krishna is driving the chariot for Arjuna, right? Just like the father and the child. The father may be the master, the child the servant, but when the child says, get down, father, I want to climb on top of your shoulder, I want to ride you like a horse, what the father will say, okay, I'll get down. And then the child will climb on top of the father, and then the child will say, faster, faster. And then, so this is the type of relationship, permanent, eternal, without disappointment, that we can have with the Supreme Lord. Okay? So the Acharya say, don't become miser. This human life is very rare. You know, if we have lots of money, right, and if we don't spend it on anything, it's called a miser, isn't it? So human life is not meant for sense gratification. We all have senses, ears, nose, mouth, right? So we don't want to use this simply for eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. So that's not the purpose of human life, because even animals can do that, right? So our life is for us to find that ultimate happiness. So this is what we need to do. We cannot become miser. So, you know, in the beginning of the story, I asked you a question. This is last week. Last week I said, if you had a wish, what would you wish for, right? So before I ask you the answer to that question, I want to tell you another story. Now, this story is about a lady. She is a lady who carried a lot of, you know, her job. She's a very old lady. Her job is to carry firewood. She will go to the forest and she'll collect firewood, and she will slowly collect, and then by afternoon, she will go walking, carrying it on her head like that, and go to the market to sell the firewood. This is what she does every day. And then somehow, don't ask me how, somehow, one day, when she was carrying this pile of wood suddenly happened to drop some of it dropped from her head, you know, on the floor. And then she's like sighing, oh my God, I have to, now this wood fell down. And then it so happened, somehow, there was this beautiful boy standing in front of her, holding a flute and having a peacock feather in his head. And then this boy is smiling at this lady, and she said, oh lady, by all your dedicated work, somehow I have been attracted to come and appear before you. Tell me, what would you like? And then this lady squinted at this boy, and then he said, oh, you young man, you're so beautiful. Okay, it's very nice. Hey, can you help me to pick up this wood on the floor and put it on my head, please, so I can go? I'm an old lady, please help me. So what do you think about this? Do you think it's very nice, it's very intelligent of this lady to say that? Anybody? Do you get the
Not sure, Prabhu.
do you get the point of what I just said? The story?
Yes.
This old lady is doing a lot of work. She's carrying all this wood and everything. And then the wood, some of the wood drops to the floor. And then suddenly, by some amazing mercy, she sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead in front of her. And this Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is asking her, what can I do for you? Tell me what you want. It's pretty similar to the question I asked you in the beginning. What do you wish for? So this lady, she could have asked for anything in the world. You know, when God comes in front of you and asks you, what do you want? What would you say? She could have asked for anything in the world, in the universe. She could have asked for love of God. She could have asked for, you know, take away my misery, take away my suffering, give me youth. She could have asked any of these things. But she was very narrow in her thinking, that she only asked for, oh, Krishna, okay, please help me. You see, they are very narrow in their thinking. So we don't want to be like that. So that is the point which I was trying to pass to you when I was asking you this question. What do we wish for? We don't want to end up like this lady, right? We want to, first we need to know, what is the goal of life? If we know what's the goal of life, what do we actually want, then we will know what is the right thing to wish for, right? So Krishna appeared. So that's why, you know, we should not be misers. The human form of life, right? We shouldn't waste it on eating, mating, sleeping, defending, or looking for power, wealth, beauty, fame, and all that, simply to, in the end, again, indulge in eating, mating, sleeping, defending. We don't want these things. So instead, right, what we should do, the idea is like this. If you had a Mercedes-Benz, would you use a Mercedes-Benz car to carry rubbish? You would not buy, let's say there's a lot of rubbish nearby, right? You want to transfer this rubbish from your house to somewhere another few kilometers away. Would you go and hire a Mercedes-Benz car, beautiful, nice one, and then, you know, bring it and then put all the rubbish inside and then bring it over and put it in that place? Obviously, you wouldn't, isn't it? So you would get any old truck will do, right? So like that, our human body is like a Mercedes-Benz. We've got this we are the Mercedes-Benz amongst all. Okay, Aditya, I'm sorry. Okay, Okay, the entire universe is angry with me. Okay. All right. So it could be a Mazda or a Mercedes-Benz or whatever. So if we, okay, old Scania truck. So we are the Mercedes-Benz of life. That means if the animal is like a Proton or you know, a bear is like a Honda, or you know, a monkey is like a what do you call, Toyota, right? So the Mercedes-Benz of life is the human being. So we should not be doing what a simple Scania truck can do. We should be doing something else, right? So that's the point of this discussion today, right? So we should not be just eating, right? Otherwise, why have a human life? Become a pig. The pig can eat everything. He can eat so much more. You know, a pig can eat a few kilo. We cannot eat even 1 kilo. We cannot even eat half a kilo. So if that is what we want, Krishna will say, become a pig in your next life. Then, monkeys like to mate. If you like to mate so much, if you want to have sex all the time, then the next life can become a monkey. Very easy. Or a pigeon, right? Even snakes, they mate, right? So they can do it on the floor, on the ground, whereas human beings, they have an expensive evening dinner, and then they will go for a romantic stroll on the beach, and then they will have a very nice apartment with a candlelight, and then with champagne and strawberries with cream and all that kind of thing before they indulge in mating. So that is not the purpose of life, okay? If you like to sleep, right? So we don't need an expensive bed. We don't need an air-conditioned room, right? The dog, you can see here, you can sleep anywhere. And it has a better quality of sleep compared to us. So like that, if you want to defend, if you want to fear, the animals can do it better, right? You get the best man to stand in front of a king cobra. See what happens. Yes, luxury maker, Mazda. Yeah, okay. So the human life is meant for attaining eternal and unlimited happiness by spiritual realization. This is what Srimad Bhagavatam says. The king of all scriptures, Grantaraj, king of all scriptures. It says human life is meant for attaining eternal and unlimited happiness. This is our only, if you want to get that, if you want to reach that destination where there is eternal happiness, you have to go through a very special airport. And that airport is human life airport. So you have to take that airport, go to that airport. Then if you do anything else, you can't. So how will this give me happiness? The question, how is spiritual realization going to give me that everlasting eternal happiness? How? It's because we are going to develop a perfect relationship with that perfect person. And we will be in the perfect place because that perfect person, God, is so rich, is so amazing, is so powerful, right? So we don't have to be worried about anything. Everything will be given to us. It's like, the son of a rich man or the daughter of a rich man, right? He doesn't have to worry about anything, isn't it? He'll have everything in terms of facilities. And why the facilities? So that these facilities will increase that sweetness of that relationship. So the facility is just a facility. The money, wealth, and all this is just a facility to further increase. It can either increase sweetness or it can make your suffering worse, right? So in relation with God, when we go back to him in the spiritual world, all facilities are there for us to have a perfect relationship with the Supreme Lord. So all happiness in the material world has a beginning and an end, but happiness in Krishna is unlimited and there is no end. The spirit soul can be happy only in the association of the Supreme Living Being, the personality of Godhead, again from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, listen, no Arjuna, intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age, death, take refuge in me in devotional service. Because after attaining me, they never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. When the embodied being is able to transcend the three modes, right, he becomes free from birth, death, old age, disease, and can even enjoy nectar, even in this life. How is that possible? Even in this life, it's possible for us to develop that relationship with Krishna and taste that wonderful nectar. How do we know? So the story is, I mentioned this story last week, about the Brahmana who had a dream from Lord Shiva, who prayed to Lord Shiva, who had a dream. And then Lord Shiva told him to go to Sanatan Goswami and get the Chintamani from him. So he got the Chintamani and he got all kinds of opulences. But then finally he realized this mustn't be the most precious thing because he kept it in the rubbish. Sanatan Goswami kept this jewel in the rubbish. So that means where must he have kept the most precious thing? So he came back to Sanatana Goswami and he asked him, this mustn't be the best thing you have. Tell me what's the best thing you have. Sanatana Goswami smiled. He told the man, in order for you to get the best thing that I have, you must take this jewel and throw it away. Then only you can get this best thing that I have. So then he had faith. This man had faith. He thought long about it and he already enjoyed this Chintamani and he found that he was still not that great, not happy. So then he thought, I want the best thing. So he returned this jewel. He followed the instruction and he threw it into the Yamuna River, far into the Yamuna River. And then he came back to Sanatana Goswami and Sanatana Goswami told him to do what? He told him, it's good that you threw away this Chintamani. Now I will give you the real Chintamani, which is, what did he give? He gave him a bag of Tulasi beads and he told him, now sit here and chant Hare Krishna with me. And very soon you will taste that Chintamani, that beautiful thing. The holy name is Chintamani and it will give you eternal pleasure. So this is, you see, Prabhupada, even in this life, we can, and this is Bilba Mangal Thakur, even in his existing life, when he was alive, it said that Lord Krishna himself directly came and there were very beautiful pastimes that happened between Bilba Mangal Thakur as he chanted Krishna's name and Krishna. How is that possible? Because Krishna and Krishna's names are non-different. They are the same. So we will talk more about this in the next time, in the next classes. Okay. So again, now I end with this. If you could make one single wish after hearing all that I have said, right? If you could make one single wish, which could come true, right? We don't want to be like the old lady, huh? Or we don't want to be like the man with the Chintamani jewel. So what would that single wish would be? So think about it, right? Tell us why you choose that wish. Think about it, right? And then let me know. So how you're going to let me know? I will send you a link. You can put the same link, like actually the one that I gave you last time. You can use the same link. Anyway, I'll send it again. Tell me, what do you think what would you wish for now with all the so-called information that you have obtained? So with that, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So if you have any questions, you can call me or you can WhatsApp me anytime, no problem. Right. So let's see. Are there any questions so far?
No, Prabhu.
Yes, Aditya, what's your question? In the meanwhile, anybody else while Aditya is typing? So thank you very much for coming, right? I'll wait for the question. Let's see. I hope you all agree with me. Do you all agree? If you don't agree, it's okay. Really, it's okay. You just have to tell me and we can talk about it. Let's discuss. Let's debate. So this is where debates can come, right? So if you feel that anything I said today or last week, if you disagree, I'm very happy to have a debate. We can have a nice debate. So please let me know. Even if you theoretically disagree, it's okay. This is how we can convince other people. When we are convinced, then we can convince others, right? No questions?
No problem.
Sorry, I can't hear. Could you speak louder? Or is your
No
mic volume
problem.
low? Shiva Shankari, is it? Okay, never mind. If you have no questions or if you do, okay, no question. All right. So if you do, please send it to my WhatsApp. You got my number, right? And I'll see you all next time. Okay. So vanchakalpa tarvibhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patithanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a good lunch.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Very good.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the class.
Hare Krishna.